What's going on, everybody? This is Rich from Gaming on a Budget, the channel that reviews free or cheap games with the hope of recommending you guys some dope shit. So today's review is going to be on the game called Vigor. I have to thank my boy TIK TOK for recommending this game. On one of my videos, he suggested it, and I said, why not? So I found the game in the Microsoft Game Store, and it was actually one of the highest rated and most popular games. So that was all the confirmation I needed, and decided that this would be the review. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the facts. So the genre of the game, it's a looter and shooter developed and published by Bohemia Interactive, a game developer out of the Czech Republic, released back in August 2019, built on the Unreal Engine 4. Platforms you can play this on include PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and the PS5. And is it crossplay? Yeah, but with the caveat. So Xbox and Switch players can actually play with each other, but PlayStation users are actually in a separate pool by themselves. So they're kind of separated. So yes, there's crossplay, but not completely. So let's talk about the game. So the game takes place in a post-apocalyptic Norway. Players, or Outlanders, face several threats against their survival. Not only do they have to survive the harsh environment, such as things like radiation, but they also have to survive against each other. There are several different game modes for players in this interesting looter and shooter. Outlanders not only need to build shelter and equipment, but also need to find materials and ultimately battle it out in order to survive. So I've been playing this game for a good amount of time, learning everything I can from the game, and I come up with some points to talk about. So without any delay, let's go ahead and get into this. So my first point, visuals. The graphics in this game are pretty good. You really see this in the landscape and environments for the game. There are certain areas that are just full of life with a bunch of green grass and even bodies of water that look super realistic. There's also detail in the buildings that you interact with. And of course, the Outlanders themselves look pretty decent as well. You start off the game by choosing your Outlander, essentially just choosing from some diverse pre-made looks. There isn't a way to customize outside of clothes and accessories, but I guess that's fine. Other than that, the visuals in the game are really impressive. So the next point, the game modes. So as of right now, there are 3 main game modes to play in Vigor. The first is Shootout, which is basically a solo deathmatch with a time limit, as opposed to like the first to score 20 or something. Every time you spawn, you get a different random loadout of weapons, but there are loot boxes all over the map that you can pick up, as well as weapons from dead players that you can use. In the last minute of the game, you enter what's called Last Chance. Basically, if you die within this time, you don't come back. So whatever score you died with, that's your final score in the game. The next game is Elimination, where you have teams of 3 to 5 players, and you have to kill everyone else on the other team to score. The first to 5 wins. Each team starts on the opposite side of the map, and every round starts with a different loadout, just similar to Shootout. And just a quick note, friendly fire is definitely on because in one of the rounds, I was shot in the back of the head by a teammate, and I died before the match even started. So yeah, just be careful about that. But that's Elimination in a nutshell. Finally, probably the most interesting mode is Encounter. So in this mode, it's everyone for themselves as you compete for resources. In this game mode, whatever your loadout contains is what you take to the field. You gotta be careful because if you die, you lose everything you brought with you, including your weapons. So very risky. There's also an airdrop that players can call that contains rare and crucial equipment. If you make it to the airdrop, just know that everyone else is looking for the same things, so you might have to fight it out with them. At any time, you can leave with what you have by finding one of the exits in the game after you've scavenged supplies. But if you wait too long, the radiation will kick in and it will actually cause you to die slowly. So time is of the essence in this game mode. So I have to say that Vigor has some very interesting game modes. I like what they did as far as the variation. And Encounter is a really interesting concept for a game mode. It definitely brings out the looter and shooter aspect behind this game. All right, so the next point, the mechanics. So while the game modes are pretty good, there are a few notes I have in regards to mechanics. So let's first talk about movement. Movement's pretty good and is like most games. I will say sometimes I had an issue climbing over things and it didn't work well all the time, at least in my experience. I had to try sometimes more than once to get over something, but that could just be me getting used to the game. Other than that, you can sprint pretty quick and you can sprint for a while, even with the weapon drawn. And speaking of weapons, similar to Apex Legends, you can holster your weapon to run faster. On the topic of weapons, let's talk about shooting. So there are a lot of weapons in this game, which is great, but I have to be honest, shooting does not feel the best in this game. I feel like aiming isn't as tight as I would like it, if that makes sense, and the overall shooting mechanics are just okay. It might just take getting used to. But speaking of shooting, there's no automatic reload. That's right, so if you empty a clip, you have to manually press reload. I guess I'm spoiled because in all the other games I play, you automatically reload when your bullets reach 0. I'm not gonna lie, this messed me up a bit, and I kind of wish they would have just changed that. Also, switching weapons was a pain. So like other games, you should just be able to press Y or whatever the equivalent button is to change your weapon. But in Vigor, the button switches to the last used weapon, meaning if you don't manually select your secondary weapon, you cannot cycle through it. After a quick Reddit search, I was able to find that you needed to press RB, well, at least on the Xbox controller. And then what this does is allows you to pick your second weapon. Now you're just able to cycle through your weapons by just clicking Y. So I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty frustrating and in my opinion, unnecessary. For someone that's playing the game, this can really trip you up, and this is like the last thing I need to worry about in a gunfight. I wanna just be able to switch guns and reload pretty quickly without, having to think much. Again, maybe I'm spoiled, but that's what I think. On a positive side, let's talk about shelter and crafting. So while looting and shooting is pretty important in this game, another crucial part of the game is collecting materials and equipment. So you get these when you play modes like Encounter, finding items throughout the map, or taking them off of people. You can use these items to craft weapons and things like health, which you need for missions like Encounter. Also, you have a shelter that you can develop to help you with farming materials and crafting these items. There's also random things you can do inside your shelter, like for instance, there's this Rubik's Cube that you can pick up and actually play with. I found this pretty cool, that you can play with a Rubik's Cube. You can also listen to music. There's like a random guitar somewhere that you can string along. And also look at your trinket collection. There's like trinkets you can collect throughout the game, and you can just take a look at that. Overall, I thought the idea of the shelter is pretty cool. Essentially having like your own clubhouse where you can craft shit and make improvements, like a generator for electricity and things of that nature. So it adds a different layer to the game. So you guys know what time it is. Let's talk about the highlights. So highlights for me, definitely the game modes. I really like the variety of game modes for this. There's essentially something for everyone to play. By far, I think the Encounter is the most unique because of the looting aspect. Also, the fact that you can potentially lose all your shit if you die, that just adds like a certain type of risk and thrill to the game. Definitely leaves you with the feeling you can lose it all before every match. Shootout and elimination are good too, but I think Encounter is definitely the most alluring game mode. But overall, all the game modes are fun. My next highlight, crafting. I really like the idea of crafting items from materials you find in the game. The fact that you can basically build weapons, items, and your shelter adds another layer of play for the game that doesn't necessarily involve you engaging with other players, if that makes sense. It's pretty cool because you have something you can do when you just want to play the game, but maybe just want to do some Minecraft shit and not want to play with anybody else. So it's cool. Like I said, adds a different layer to the game. I do have to add a con to this in part of the highlights. So this isn't a highlight, but the mechanics are definitely a potential con for me. As small as it is, automatic reload would make a big difference. Call me lazy, but in a gunfight, I don't want to have to worry about manually pressing a button to reload. Same thing for the switch weapons issue. This should be a lot simpler, and like other games, the second weapon should not have to be used in order to cycle through it. I'm realizing now that these kind of add a sense of realism to the game by making reloading a conscious effort. But still, it's something I had to bring up. It doesn't take away majorly from the game, but it's just something that I feel might need to be improved on, especially if you're a player that's accustomed to, automatically reloading and just being able to press Y or the equivalent to just cycle through your weapons. Final thoughts, Vigor is a really cool game. Despite my quips about some of the mechanics, it's actually pretty good. It offers a very unique spin on a shooter game that I appreciate, and I find it really fun. Sure, there are some things that can improve on, but every game has something wrong with them at some point. Overall, it's not a bad game, and I see myself playing it for a bit longer. If you're looking for a game that's a bit different, but still fun, I would definitely give this game a shot. But as always, I gotta ask you guys, what do you think? Are you playing Vigor? If not, do you think you'll try it? What do you think about Encounter? What do you think about that looting aspect? Really curious to hear what you guys think. Let me know all that in the comments. So if you like this video, go ahead and drop a like. And if you're new here, please feel free to subscribe. Videos on a weekly basis, whether it be free to play game news, whether it be live streams, whether it be streamers. I still owe you guys a streamers. Got to find one soon. And, just more game reviews. So yeah, definitely something for everyone here. But yeah, please show some love. And for everyone that has been showing love, I super appreciate it. You guys are helping me grow the channel, and it's just fun to interact with you guys. But anyways, thank you guys for checking this out. I super appreciate it. I'm Rich from Gaming on a Budget. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.